I want to introduce someone who's become a friend and certainly a mentor of mine, um, Marc King, who is the Director of Growth for KWRI, Regional Director, owner of multiple market centers, and an all-around just an amazing guy. Marc, if you don't mind, can you just say a little bit about yourself, and then we can kind of deep dive into a few questions.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm so excited. I think you forgot the roommate part. We're roommate and
You're right.
Chris snores. If you've never had the pleasure of sleeping with Chris, well, that came out really wrong. Then you know he snores, or you should know he snores. So he's hard to sleep around. But we had the great pleasure of sharing a bunk bed of all things in Austin, Texas. We bonded. And I just love his passion. I love everything about him. And so I'm so excited to be here today. I've been with Keller Williams for 19 years. And before all the market centers and the regions and the KWRI piece, people forget that I was a top agent in my market. And so I'm a realtor first. I'm passionate about real estate sales. And if I'd have known expansion was a thing, I would have never sold my business in 2008. So really excited to be here. So thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Marc. I want to talk about, because you're around top producers in the country, and what are top producers doing right now, right, through COVID-19, and as the states start to open, what are you seeing?
Yeah, I think crisis brings out the leadership in everyone. I think what made them top producers in the first place is exacerbated by what's going on right now. So whatever drives you, whatever gets you out of bed in the morning, whatever causes you to do what you did to be a top producer is highlighted in times like this, where you see 80% of the industry just kind of, sitting back on their couch. They're buying into the excuses that we can't do anything. States aren't open. We see this a lot with team leaders, Chris. We see people that say, well, no one's recruiting right now. No one's building their profit share tree, et cetera. And I noticed what were you, net 9 last month? Is that right?
Yeah.
Not bad. Not bad. Yeah, I think that was second in the country or something, third in the country, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, even higher this month.
Yeah.
Marc, I'll let you, and I just want to interrupt real quick is, not much has changed as far as I'm concerned in regards to what we do on a daily basis, right? Yeah. So from, you know what I mean?
Well, second place is the first loser, Ricky Bobby. But other than that, second's not bad in the whole scheme of things. So
yeah.
That's awesome. No, I think it's so interesting because I've coached a lot of top producers in my career, and it's always funny. There's always this balance between working on your business and working in your business, right? And so many people have two major challenges in coaching agents. One is to get them to build a database. As silly and mundane as that sounds, is to actually build a database, a quality database that has your 4 pieces of information in it: your name, your address, your email, your phone number. And so that's been the biggest challenge. Second biggest challenge is getting agents to actually communicate with that database. There's always that new shiny squirrel internet thing, whatever, that's going to magically give us that shortcut. And so I've talked to agents all over the country, and I'm like, now's your chance. Go lay the foundation you've been hoping to lay. Because I always hear the same thing. If I just had a month off where I could work on my business and build the systems, build the foundation, then everything would be great. And so I don't know, what's your market doing right now, Chris? What's going on up there?
Well, we just kind of opened up last week because we were deemed non-essential. Yeah. And so a lot of us on this call, all of us on this call are really happy about that. There's some limitations to it, but certainly it's starting to open back up. I think we're gonna see more listings on the market. And I think we're going to bounce back relatively quickly. Mm-hmm. I'm hoping for that. And I think that's going to be the second part of the question that we're going to talk about in regard to the market. But that's kind of what we're seeing in Philadelphia County right now.
Yeah, it's interesting because state to state, it varies so much. And we've seen places where showings are down 90%, listings are down 70%. We're seeing some of that. We're seeing I live in the middle of the country. If you've seen the show, any Ozark fans?
Oh yeah, huge.
That's where I live. And so we made national news because apparently the virus doesn't come to the Ozarks.
Lake Ozark.
Yeah. And so right after this, I'm going to be on with the Mexican cartel. So just so you know, gotta wrap this up quickly. No, but that's where I live. And it's fascinating because showings are down 7%. Right. And by the way, the coronavirus numbers are shooting through the roof right now. So not good, right? So it's
Yeah.
different all over the country. But what I would tell you is that this is a pattern interrupt, right? This is going to bring out the things. There's 3 questions I'd love to ask for you for kind of self-reflection. And I asked them in Team Leader Fundamentals, and it applies to this situation right now. And so we should have learned a lot about our businesses over the past couple months, right? So what am I doing that if I stopped doing, no one would notice? And for a lot of us, we're realizing over the last couple of months, I was doing a lot of things in my business that had no impact on my success. So what am I doing that if I stopped doing, no one would notice? And the sad part is that's probably 80% of our day, right? The second question is, what am I not doing that if I started doing would dramatically change my business? And we're realizing that the new normal, as you've heard, it's probably the most overused term since all this started. The new normal involves a lot of Zooms. It involves, it actually, I look at it as I've saved tens of thousands of dollars through this from travel expense. Like I look at the bright side. This, being on with all of you, although I love being in person, I'm a people person. I love hugs. I love all those things. And yet we can be just as effective in this medium as we were in person. So there's some new normal things we have to understand about our business. So what am I not doing that if I started doing would dramatically change my business? I think the future of this business involves a lot more technology, which is another point that we'll talk about in a second. The third question is, what am I doing well that I need to do more of? So what was I doing well before this started? What am I doing well now? And what do I need to engage more of? I've started this new habit, Chris, where I'm getting up at 5 o'clock every morning. And what I'm realizing, and this is kind of the theme of my month right now, is there's very little traffic in the extra mile. And so it's so much easier right now to have huge success than in normal times. In good times, everybody's a winner. Everybody looks good. Everybody can list a house. Everybody can show a buyer. Look, here's the kitchen. I'm amazing. At the end of the day, though, it's times like this where your skill really matters. So there's very little traffic in the extra mile. And if you'll go that extra mile right now, you're going to take massive market share that you'll never give up. So I'm embracing this. The other thing that I would tell you real quick, a little background, is I almost went bankrupt in 2008. I was the guy who I built a big millionaire business with this book. And then, the market started to shift. So I read this book, and then I took all my extra money and I built a big rental portfolio with this book. I'm just kind of a follower, I guess. I'm a guy who loves systems and models. And so in 2008, I had a partner who's an accountant, and he was all about leverage. Use other people's money, and why have savings? Why have reserves when you can, make the spread? And so I was over leveraged to the tune of about $6 million. And suddenly the market shifted, and I had to sell my real estate business just to survive. I sold it for $1 million, sold my sales business for $1 million. I was paid $250,000 of that. And then the person who bought it had, kind of went bankrupt. And so when all that occurred, what I realized is if this ever happens again, I'm gonna be flush with cash. So my financial advisors, my accountants, everyone from that time till now has given me a hard time for having so much money in reserves. Every business, I have 7 marketing centers today. Every one of them has 6 months of expenses, pre-COVID expenses, we've cut all those expenses by 20%. So we probably got 8-9 months of expenses in every single market center. Personally, I have 3 years of expenses, and I live on a fraction of my income. So what's crazy about that is right now I'm able to take advantage of the downturn, some real estate deals, if I wanted to buy a boat, there's a lot of boats for sale right now based on what's going on. So you've heard the rich get richer, the poor get poor. You see top agents get more topper and bottom agents get more bottomer in times like this, right? And it's not because of the reasons we think. It's because the rich get richer because they have cash reserves right now. And when the poor have to sell, or the over leveraged have to sell, the rich are going to be the ones with cash to buy. So they're going to buy at good deals. It's predictable. So if anything, I'm thankful for I'm going to guess 10 years that the last recession took off my life, because we're going to be able to benefit this time. So you can take those same lessons and apply them to your real estate business and say, what am I not doing that when this time happens again? Because it will. If you're in real estate, you're a lifer like me. Whatever you're going through won't be around long, and it will come back. So whether it was a 2008 recession, whether it's what's going to be another recession, worse, we think, or the next one 7 to 10 years from now. Be prepared for it, and you're going to take advantage of it.
Great stuff, Mark. Love it. My second question.
Also depressing, very depressing. I woke up this morning to depress all of you.
Not depressing at all. The second question I have for you is, where do you see the market in the next 6 months to a year? What's your perspective on it?
Well, this is so interesting because I get to have a kind of a global perspective because I'm around Gary every day, and I get to hear all the experts, all the gurus. And I'm very simple. I love looking at our numbers. I'm a numbers guy. I love predictive analytics. I love what's happening with Josh's team and our technology. And so it's fascinating to me. I was looking this morning, and the chief economist for NAR is saying we're gonna be off about 14% in home sales this year. And it's fascinating to me. Number one, if you go back and read all the articles in 2007 from NAR, and no offense to NAR, I'm sure they have a value. And yet what happens is in 2007, all the articles were, this isn't going to be that bad. And people are overestimating what the recession is going to look like. And, this talk about mortgage-backed securities, go back and research it. It's fascinating. So you got to take into account that NAR can't come out and tell you the truth. They can't come out and say, we're likely going to have a 40% decrease in sales this year. Because what would happen? We would have half our industry go, and run for the hills. The difference between this time and that time is people can't just run out and get a bartending job right now, right? Yeah. So people are staying in, which is interesting. Builders, there's an article today on Yahoo Finance that home builder sales beat estimates like crazy. They're so excited. And so stocks of home building companies are going up. Well, if you understand real estate, you understand those build jobs started 6 months ago. Those contracts went into place 3 months ago, right? So this is, you're going to see a huge dip in home sales. So anyway, so I tell you all that to say, very simply, if you study the biggest, baddest real estate company on the planet, which is Keller Williams, largest real estate company, and you look at our listings taken for last month, our listings taken as a company was down 33.9%, 34%. So if you're all top agents, you all get this at a very high level. If your listings drop by 34%, your closings are going to drop by 34% 90 days from now. That's how this business works. So you have to do something against the norm. If you're a market center, you got to go recruit production in. If you're a top agent, you've got to do twice the lead generation that you had to do before this. So just understand, you don't have to participate in this downturn. You get to choose whether or not you participate in this downturn. It's all based on the activities you engage in. So the market is going to go backwards. The good news is speed doesn't matter as much as skill does anymore. In other words, your brother-in-law who just got his license can't sell your house in this market. So I would expect to answer that was a long answer, your short question, but I will bet you that 90 days from now, we're seeing 40% drops. I think there will be a kind of a fourth quarter rally. I mean, you see what's kind of happening. It's kind of an American Spirit story, or it's a Lake of the Ozarks party story, one of the two. But when you make national news because you have thousands of people congregating at bars and on the lake and all that good stuff, there's a little bit of that American Spirit that's going, hey, we choose not to participate in this whole virus thing. That may be foolhardy, but you can take that lesson and say, I don't have to participate in the downturn.
That's great. Thanks, Mark.
Let's bet a steak dinner on that, because I will bet you that our closings in this industry drop by 40% 3 months from now. So just write that down and let's have a steak dinner on it.
All right. I'll take that bet.
Margin of error 5% either way.
Okay.
I'm hedging now, but that's good.
Okay. I like that. I actually have a question for you, just me personally, and then I want to open the floor up for other questions from everybody on the call. I'm interested to know what your mindset has been and what it is, and what you've been training other agents on what their mindset should be as well.
Yeah, I think now you're getting personal. I love it. So yep. I'm very competitive, and I mask it with humor from time to time. And I like to, and I love people, man. I feel like I'm a really nice person, and yet there's some people that I rub the wrong way because I'm super fiery and I'm competitive. And I don't know if you've seen Eric Thomas, the motivational speaker. If you get a chance to YouTube him, he's our speaker. I think this is a secret, by the way. I wasn't supposed to tell you that. but he's our speaker at
Yep.
Mastermind.
Yep.
All right. So if you get it, he's the guy who, if you've seen the Nike commercials, and he's fiery and he's no excuses, no holds barred. I love him.
He's awesome.
And so I think, ironically, my title now is Director of Growth, and Gary let me pick it. And when I picked it, I didn't realize it was an acronym for dog. And what's fascinating about that is, and some people have picked up on that and they have fun with me. But what's fascinating about that is Eric Thomas has a whole video out about where is that dog inside of you. So this is a top 20% call. So I know we can be direct. You're all top performers. And at the end of the day, there was a passion in you at some point to go achieve, to change your life, to change your family tree, to provide for your family, to hit your goals, to live your dreams, to make the money you want to make, to build wealth. Whatever that drive and that passion was in you, we've got to reignite it. And I'm fully transparent. The last year has been a roller coaster. I ran all of our former CEO's businesses before he resigned. I didn't know he was resigning. When he resigned, a lot of things kind of changed in my life. And I woke up and thought I was on one path and had to shift and go another. And so to answer your question, I'm fiery, and something has awoken inside of me, and I'm ready to go absolutely kick some ass and take some names. And that's not in culture, and I get it. And I'm sorry. And I said the same thing to Mo Anderson, and she got on me. So I'll pay my fine, but I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. My mindset is, when everybody else is slowing down, living in their excuses, we're going to find a way. So perform anyway. Perform anyway. Your family, your goals, your dreams don't care about COVID. So you got to find a way. That's my mindset, and that's
pretty strong right there. And I love how passionate you are. That's great. There's no need to apologize either. I think it's great. Everyone, you have a direct connection to KWRI, Director of Growth. Please ask any questions you want. Marc's an open book.
Hi, good morning, Mark. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Gaurav. I'm the OP and Chris's partner.
Gaurav, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thank
Good.
you. One thought comes to mind, during the last year's mastermind, during this kind of similar conversation, somebody mentioned that, after all this thing is done and over with, and we move on, your big why will remain the same.
That's right.
That was a big impact on me personally, that, my big why does not change because of this market or the pandemic. So my actions don't change because if they're based on my big why. Otherwise, and I think this was Gary who said it, says, otherwise go question your big why. You've been living a lie because you've been living a lie in the name of your big why. But if your big why is what it is, this should not change your work ethic and your motivation. It should actually motivate you more.
It really should. You've hit on something there that, we talk about this model of, it's called GPAR, goal, plan, action, result. And then you check those things and you come back. Your goal shouldn't change regardless of what's happening. Now, if your goal is to live a long, healthy, happy life and you end up in the emergency room, some things will change in the moment. But at the end of the day, your big why shouldn't change. This shouldn't change your big why. What changes is your plan and your action to hit that big why. So I agree with you. And there's an old Aaron Tippin song, you got to stand for something or you fall for anything. So whatever you stand for didn't change, right? I didn't suddenly not become a man of faith because of this. I didn't suddenly decide not to be a great husband because of this. My big why is still my big why. But yeah, your actions have to change. And that's the hard part, because honestly, and hi, my name's Mark, and life was pretty easy about 4 months ago. Right now, I want you to imagine real quick, Gaurav, that Gary Keller calls and he says, hey, I want you to be the Director of Growth, and here's your contract. And in your contract, we're going to grow this company. We're going to grow the largest real estate company on the planet. Oh, by the way, we're going to clean up some ghost agent stuff. We're going to clean up some other stuff, and we're going to grow this company. And then we have the biggest pandemic in any of our lifetime. And so now agents are getting out of the business, right? Now, do you think I can go to Gary and go, hey, Gary, there's a pandemic. I don't think I have to live up to my contract?
There's absolutely no way. And that's what they said, Microsoft started in a recession. If you do it right, and you said, rich gets richer. I think there's a huge opportunity. We grew with the new partner, Kevin, in a whole King of Prussia territory with close to about 100 agents, in theory, by sitting at home.
Yeah.
We haven't, because the role didn't change, the goal didn't change. It was just that we had a new obstacle and we trying to figure out how to manage that obstacle.
I love it.
Anybody else?
Mark, I have a question. Kevin Toll here. I'm partners with Gorov and Stevens with the King of Prussia territory.
Welcome. Welcome to the family.
Thank you. It's been fun, and we have grown 100 agents by in theory sitting at home. It's been interesting and a change of pace, but it's been great. What is the one area of growth you would focus on in growing offices and market centers and on your team? What's the one thing that you would be focusing on right now with the change in times here?
So Kevin, you're hitting on my soapbox, and I thank you for that question. It was almost like we planned that this morning at like 5:30. Thank you for that breakfast meeting. That's a joke, everybody. So, but here's what happens, and this is because of my fiery disposition, I'm also very skeptical. I grew up very poor. I grew up in the inner city, and you always got one eye looking in each direction, right? And so anytime someone says, here, try this, it's good for you, I go, wait a minute, buddy, let you go first, right? So when I look at what Gary's built, and I finally I get to see behind the curtain, if you will. And if you look at what Gary's doing with technology, what he's doing with concierge, what he's doing with Keller Offers, what he's done with Keller Covered, Keller Mortgage, you can look at it one of two ways. And a lot of top agents I had a recruiting appointment yesterday with someone who said, yeah, I've seen Command, it's great. And she spent $100 grand on her tech in the last 2 years. I've seen it, but we've got so much sunk cost in this. I don't think we're going to make a change. Command is vastly superior to what she's using. And the leads we're generating are a 30th of the cost of what she's generating. It's crazy. So the number one thing I would tell people, especially if you're newer to Keller Williams, is be open to everything, question everything. That's the rules I live my life by. Be open to everything. Give me your argument, but be strong enough to question everything. Tell me why this is better. And what I would tell you is I am 100% all in, super fan of everything Keller's doing. If I were an agent today, and I am an agent today, in fact, I made more last year in referral fee income than I made my first year in real estate, which is ironic. And I put 0 time and effort into it. But I have leads out on the Facebook Lead Accelerator in our command. I have contacts in my own command, and I'm not an active selling real estate agent. So what I would tell you is if you understand what Keller Mortgage is and why it's so important to protecting the commission that agents charge, if you understand what Keller Covered is and how it's a value add, Keller Home, which is going to be coming fourth quarter, is going to be the ability to manage all your clients, stay in contact with you through the entire home ownership. So it's not just you pay attention to them when they're ready to buy or sell, you become their true fiduciary for life. If you understand what Gary's building, it is a game changer for the agent. So what we have is we have a lot of, I'll give you a great example. This is the analogy I would give you. Here, this is a book, and I followed this to a letter. Remember, I'm a guy, I'm not very smart, but when other people show me time and time again, and there's 23 stories in the back of this book about people who make $1 million a year selling real estate. So if you show me that 23 times, I'm going to buy in, and I'm going to do it till it stops working. So you start with page 1 and you go through this book. What happens is the first 66 pages are mindset. But what happens is people will start following this book, and they'll build a database, and they'll have a 33 touch or 36 touch. Now they'll have an 8x8. They'll start building the systems and models that we know predictably will cause great success. And then something happens. We get, it's good to great. We get that comfortable feeling. We go, this was great to help me get started, but I'm gonna do it my own way now. Here's the best advice I could ever give a top agent. If you're not netting $1 million a year, go back and read this book. Start from page 1, start over. There's a core tenet that is showing up in our company. And this is what's scary, Chris. And this is, if you're going to stand for anything, stand for the agent, because a lot of agents, you have to stand for them when they won't stand for themselves. Here's a great example. We have 3 major components to building a massive real estate business. One is technology. We can't get away from its times we live in. One is people, because you have to have leverage. And one is systems. So those are the only 3 ingredients it takes to make as much money as you make. Ben Kinney, $10 million last year. You can make as much money in this business and build as big a life as you choose to if you just follow this book. The challenge is we're getting those 3 ingredients out of order. And you see it every day. You'll see it in your market center. You'll see it in your competitors. I want to go build a team. What's the first thing I do? I go collect a whole bunch of agents. I don't have leads. I don't set appointments for them. I don't even have strong admin, but I collect a whole bunch of agents. I'm invasion of the body snatchers, right? I get 12 agents on my team. I do 12 million a year. That doesn't work. And that's the biggest challenge in our industry right now. So what you have to do is you have to start with your systems and models. You've got to build whatever business. Here's a great exercise for you. 2021, pick any goal. What do you want to do? How many units do you want to sell? What do you want your volume to be? Just think about this in your mind. So Chris, role play this with me. You're a top agent, all right?
Got it.
So 2021, how many houses do you want to sell?
150.
Okay, I see you as much better than that. So we're going to cross that out, double it, and we're going to go to 300. Are there other people in our industry that will sell 300 houses in 2021?
Yes.
So you can too. What happens is they have different systems and models than you have. So what you have to start with is build the systems and models of a 300 unit agent. Then what we have to do is we have to go figure out, so what technology do I have to have in my business so that I can drive enough leads so that I can close 300 houses, right? So it's systems models, then technology. Oh, by the way, when those leads come in, what people do I need to service those leads so we can make sure we have 300 closings? That's the order that is guaranteed predictable success to get you to 300 units. Now, might you hit 250 next year? You might not hit 300, but you're going to hit it more than 150. So what people do instead is they put people in place. They go, if I go get 10 buyers agents, I'm going to sell 300 houses. Oh, by the way, I'm going to go sign up for this online lead thing that has a 3% conversion rate. And it's going to cost me $5,000 to $7,000 a month. Oh, by the way, when I have those 2 things in place, then I'll start to put this manual into place and all these systems for my business. And you see it all over our industry. So it's a fascinating industry where people would rather have a billboard up because they puff their chest up about their 30 million in sales. What I would rather do is have everyone walk around. There used to be a commercial, a financial commercial, but everybody could walk around with something around their neck that said, this is my net profit. Because that would change the game. That would change everybody's view of what's important. Like I've never understood, and I just don't have this part of my ego. I've never understood working really hard just to show other people a false measure of my success. Like I was the #1 agent in my board in Kansas City in 2007, and I didn't know it. And so I didn't show up at the awards banquet, and people thought I was stuffy or stuck up or whatever. I didn't know. That wasn't my goal. My goal, I didn't care what other people were doing. I had a financial goal that I had to hit. 2008, same thing happened, and I didn't know. I wasn't a part of the board activities or whatever. I was in it for a different big why. So I think that was super, Kevin, sorry, but you got on my soapbox there. We got to follow the system and model. If you're not netting $1 million a year in real estate, go follow the model. It's guaranteed. It will work. Don't vary. And by the way, MREA 2 has very few changes to it. So I promise you, I did it. You can do it too. I'm not that smart.
It's funny that role playing, that script, it sounds like it came right out of MREA.
It sounds similar, doesn't it?
It does. And it's funny. And I'm reading MREA again, and it's funny. I'm getting something new out of it every time I read it.
Here's a great tip. By the way, I've worn the covers off of these things. So this is my 13th copy, and I have to do this. A couple of them I loaned out and didn't get back, but I wear the covers off of them. And I'm so 3rd grade. I still put my name and my phone number right there. Just so if I lose it, this is important to me. Call me and tell me because I can't afford the $14 to go get another one. So, and get it bound. But here's another great tip, I think, for all of us right now is that you have to understand someone moved our cheese. And what I mean by that is technology is changing our business. So what I've told our regional tech trainers to do is go back and reread this book, but read it with the mind of a technologist. In other words, every time you see a system and model, think what technology makes that more efficient for me? And then what you're going to find is the technology that most helps you get to $1 million a year in selling real estate is what Gary's built. He's a genius in my mind.
And in closing right now, and I appreciate all the ahas that you gave us today, is the big aha for me over this COVID-19 with KW in general was the accessibility of top people like yourself and Jason Abrams that are pouring into us and coming on calls. I mean, just the accessibility alone just speaks to what really KW is all about. And I really, really do appreciate you. and everyone else from KWRI who's been on our call. So I just wanted to say that.
Well, you're kind. I think it's two things that if we were having a cigar right now, I would correct you on one of those things, and that is nobody's any more top people than anybody else. Gary Keller's on recruiting appointments every day. Here's the difference. Here's what happens, and here's what I've seen in our company versus others.
Yep.
Leaders rise in times like this. Leaders show up. It's 12, 15-hour days. It's awesome. And I will tell you, I've never been more energized to do what I do than right now. And there's so many people who are sitting on the sidelines. That's why it's so easy to go take market share right now.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you, Mark. You know that. And
I appreciate you very much. You're a rock star.
And thanks for being on our call. Really appreciate you.
You're very lucky to have the agents you have around you, and they're very lucky to have you. So I'm super excited.
Thanks, Mark. Have an awesome day.
I'm heading out. Appreciate you. Thank you, Garv. See ya.
See ya. Hope you guys got a lot of that. I know I did.
Yeah, I got a ton, took some good notes. And hopefully you're ready to get even more.
Yep.
So speaking of former high-level KWRI folks, Holly Priestner is joining us on the call. If you didn't read the description of the impact Holly's made and what she's going to be able to share with us today, is she is the growth leader and director of talent acquisition and development for the Experience Real Estate Network, which is, if you're unfamiliar, the largest expansion network in the company. And again, if you're not familiar, if they're the largest expansion network in the company, they're the largest expansion network in this country. So Holly is leading the talent development growth, expansion growth. And prior to that, she was actually one of the vice presidents with Keller Williams International, and oversaw marketing, communication, industry relations, people operations, started young professionals, really everything. And I actually didn't know this about you, Holly, but you helped to recruit Josh Team. So that's a nice little fun fact. kind of impactful, huh? So, I know I talked a lot for you, and I want to just jump right in. I appreciate you so much for coming on the call. I'm really excited to have you on and continuing our conversations about, Philadelphia and what that can offer. But I want to jump right in and talk about how Experience, as the largest expansion network in the country, is pivoting right now. Like, what are you guys doing to counterbalance or counteract what's happening in the market? What are you doing with talent? Like, what's that look like?
Yeah, well, so first of all, thank you for having me. And following Mark King is an intimidating feat. He is absolutely amazing. And a lot of what you heard him say is what you're going to hear me say. So like Brandon said, we are the largest expansion network, and Experience and Ben Kinney companies came together to form a new platform called Place. And I'm from the Experience side. And what I would say, like Mark, I have my MREA with me at all times, tabbed, the tab version with my own tabs, because basically whenever we say that we pivot our MREA model to follow Shift, the other book that I have in front of me at all times. And so what do I mean by that? Right? We're all facing, very unusual times. And I know it's been more difficult for you than most because y'all were non-essential. By the way, what's happening with that right now, Brandon?
So we are essential now. As of like last week, I think that's why attendance is a little down on our call today, because we literally, this is the first full week of being essential. So people were out showing and making that happen. But yeah, so we're kind of back to being able to do something.
Yeah, that's great news. I'm so excited for y'all. So what we looked at as we looked at social distancing, a global pandemic, and also knowing that we're catering to clients that are at different comfort levels. Also, as real estate professionals, we all have different comfort levels about what we are, willing to do as far as being around people, being in homes. And so the first thing that we did, honestly, is straight out of Shift, right? We reduced our expenses 20% day one. Our leadership team was in Bellingham in the beginning of March, and I think I landed back in Austin, Texas, where I'm based on March 11th, and on March 12th, Chris Suarez called me and said, hey, the real estate team you run and everything you do for the hub, we got to reduce by 20% by the end of the week. And I think that was a Wednesday or a Thursday. So we reduced expenses 20%. If you have not already done that, y'all take the play out of the playbook shift and do so. We've been fortunate where we continue to see our production actually increase, but at the same time, we know that we're moving into the shift. So make sure that you do that. And then again, following the playbook, like I said, I'm going to sound a lot like Marc, but that's because we know these playbooks lead to success. So double lead gen, triple conversion, quadruple training. So you're thinking, how do I do that in this new world? And, I'll say that we were already at a little bit of an advantage because we are in, dozens of markets across the nation. A lot of what we do is already on Zoom. So we had a high comfort level, right? We script practice on Zoom. We collaborate on Zoom. We do a lot of trainings on Zoom. And so we were pretty comfortable with that. But what we did right away was, how do we reach our clients? And we'll talk about talent in a moment. But how do we reach our clients where they are on Zoom? By, again, going back to the fundamentals of the MREA in a way that we know is proven. I'm going to echo Marc. It doesn't matter what your production numbers are if you're not profitable. And I applaud KWRI. They've made a big change in the last couple of years, where I believe they mentioned even at Mega Camp that everyone on that stage, Gary looked at their P&L first to make sure that we're following the people that are winning with profit, not just production. So when we go back to the MREA, how do we take just traditional lead gen and shift it into a virtual or somewhat virtual environment? And you know what? I'm kind of going to talk through the phases that we went through, just so you can see we didn't have it all figured out on day one of, when the world, we like to say, gosh, the world stopped. At first we were like, hey, just do virtual houses, just do Facebook Lives, make sure that your clients see that you're out there. So I think that's weekend one, that's what we were doing. But we quickly, within week two, we quickly pivoted to be able to do virtual open houses with lead capture. And after we get off today, I'm actually going to send Brandon our virtual open house tutorial and a correlating video so that if you want to do the same thing, you can. It's not necessarily something that we were ever expecting to do, but we've had such good results that we believe that we're going to continue to incorporate elements of virtual houses into our lead gen levers, even after we've moved on from social distancing, even when we're back to maybe our new old normal, because we've had so much success, it's super efficient. Let me tell you what I mean by lead capture, right? If you're just doing a Facebook Live or you're just sending out an invite with a Zoom link, you're not capturing the contact information that's needed to put someone on a campaign, right? What we want to be able to capture is name, address, phone number, and email. And so with our virtual opens, what we've been able to do is through simple free tools like Cognito Forms, we've been able to create an Eventbrite. We've been able to create registrations where whenever someone is even signing up to come to one of our virtual open houses, we're capturing those 4 critical pieces of contact information so that we can automatically put them on a campaign. Right, so before they even walk into our virtual door, that information that's often difficult or challenging for us to get in the moment live, we have. The other thing is we're holding our virtual opens open during a time frame, just as we would on a normal open house. A couple things I would say is if we have in our MLS that there's a virtual tour available, the week that we're having the virtual open, we actually exchange that link for the virtual open house link. That way, anyone that's wanting that virtual tour is actually directed to our virtual open house. The other thing, and it depends, MLS from MLS, we're working with different markets. And I suspect that you're working with different boards too in your area, not just the main area in Philadelphia. But we also were putting that virtual open house information and showing that we're having the open house open virtually in the MLS just the way we always would. Right, so using Cognito forms, free, there's a free version that allows you to collect the contact information, holding the house open just as you would a normal open house, using the MLS to put that information out there. But the other thing, when we go back to basics, echoing Mark, we don't want to spend a bunch of money, right? We're talking about reducing our expenses by 20%. We need to be leading with profit, leading with revenue, right? I worked for Gary. I think that was beat into my head. So switching to work for Chris Morris was really, really easy to do. But we're going to circle prospect, right? We're going to make dials around our open house, inviting the neighbors to attend. I wouldn't recommend door knocking right now. People are already kind of weird about where they're going to go. They're going to be weird about opening their door to a stranger. So double down on your dials. What do I mean by that? In our typical open house, we door knock 25 doors and we make 50 dials. Why not make 100 dials for each of your virtual opens? Post in all the places that you normally post to market, right? Or how are you marketing to other agents, other brokers? But also engage your clients, right? Give them the virtual open house registration link so that they can post it in their next door. They can put it on their social. And then I think the third, just, last quick tip is when you're holding that virtual open, engage with people. And I'm going to say this, engage with me. Like if you have questions or comments along the way, feel free to take yourself off mute or type in the chat box, right? We don't want things to be a one-way presentation. We want it to be a conversation. And it would be easy in that virtual open house environment not to be engaging and feel like you're presenting. So as people pop on that Zoom, and we set it up as a Zoom and then we do a share screen, either using a Matterport tour or a video or photos, whatever you happen to have on hand, but engage people, right? Maybe start out with some market stats, both for your market, but also for that neighborhood that you're in. Engage people with those market stats, make them relevant to why it might be important to them. Ask them why they're there that day, right? Are they a neighbor and they're like, gosh, I need something new to do on a Saturday because things aren't completely open where I live, or maybe I'm not comfortable? Or have I been looking in this neighborhood for a while? Or am I actively searching right now? Or am I another agent? But ask them why they're in, encourage them to start speaking off the bat so that they another pivot, and then of course follow up like you always do. Set them on a campaign, follow up with emails, follow up with phone calls, follow up with handwritten notes, right? You've captured all their contact information. It makes that follow up easy. And the reason I'm going to share the video and the tutorial on this is, y'all, it works. We've been receiving multiple offers on our virtual opens, right? People are still relocating, especially from other states. And the last thing they want to do right now is make frequent plane trips to look for houses. Another thing that's been really cool, in addition to capturing all of the contact information, is that we're also getting a lot of unrepresented buyers, right? People, Gary likes to use the word voyeurism, right? With technology, like how do we get people to explore and dive in? People they're looking for fun things, for brain candy. So it's a great time to capitalize on that. Also, give your virtual opens a second act, right? You can replay them and do watch parties as Facebook Lives after the fact, where you can engage with people as they're commenting. The other thing, use those recordings in your newsletters, right? I mean, this is going to do two things for your database. One, it's going to provide them something interesting to look at. Number two, it's going to show what a strong marketer you are and remind them why you're the real estate agent of choice. Any questions on that just quick overview before I dive into some other pivots?
If you have any questions, obviously feel free to type them in the chat. I love all those virtual tips. I think throwing it in your newsletter is easy. Like, that's easy. And people are hopefully already reading it, or at least looking at it. But what I was thinking was, and tell me if this is something you guys are seeing too, when you're sending them in your newsletter, people might now be more interested in opening your newsletters because they think there's going to be really cool content inside of it. So it's like
100%.
even if there's not one in there. Britt McLaughlin asked, how are you integrating the Cognito form?
Yeah, the way that I do it, and I also do this for virtual recruiting events. The way that I do it is I just take that Cognito form, and whenever, instead of giving them a Zoom link, whenever they register an Eventbrite, they fill out that Cognito form. And even the free version has an auto response email that you can send, that after they fill out their contact information, they get an email saying, hey, thank you so much. We can't wait to see you on Saturday from 2 to 4. Here is the Zoom link. So I'm not giving them the Zoom link in Eventbrite, but giving them the Zoom link when they filled out that Cognito form in their automatic response. Great question, Brett. Thank you for that.
It makes sense. Yeah, I think we're really too quick to give the Zoom link in the Eventbrite. Even us for like leadership, what we do with events, it's much easier to use that. What are you doing as far as talent right now? We have a number of team owners on the team, or people looking to, or on the call, people looking to grow teams out, leadership's on the call. So what are you looking to do with talent right now?
You just heard Mark King say that there is never a better time to take market share. He means that as far as our production is concerned. I would also say if you're growing a team, the same thing from a production standpoint. I'm spoiled. I got into this industry because I was recruited to KWRI. I only know KW. And this has been a real eye-opening experience for me personally. I'm doing a lot with the Austin Board of Realtors right now. I'm an instructor for them, leading some masterminds. And the Austin Board of Realtors is better than most boards. Like, I have awareness that we're a strong board and our CEO is an industry leader. Yet I was still floored by in the first few weeks of social distancing. And when I was talking to their learning department on some ideas, I'm like, hey, why don't we put this together? Like, I'm happy to pitch in. How can we help you? The way that Keller Williams thinks and what Keller Williams has to offer versus the rest of the industry, right? So right now is a great time to simply be reaching out to your co-op agents that you would want to be in business with, right? Josh Team is the person who taught me create a rock star list, and think by us recruiting Josh Team really changed my mindset. Now, like, I create a rock star list of who do I want to be in business with. And so number one, you can get anyone that you want. I promise you that. But number two, now's a great time to do that. So think about agents that you respect in your market. Think about agents that you've done deals with that you're like, gosh, they have great ethics. They have great integrity. Love their personality. Love their approach to clients. Sorry about that, client care. Make that list. You'll simply reach out. We're going back to the fundamentals. We're taking care of people. None of this is sexy. This is all coming with heart. But just reach out to them, right? You just became essential again. A great script to use is, hey, Brandon, just want to check in with you. Gosh, I'm glad we were finally open. How has your business been doing, since we were non-essential for so long? Listen to Brandon. How is working virtually or working remote, how has that been working for you? What challenges have you had? And listen, and just ask, hey, what's your brokerage doing to support you? Just listen. Mary Tennant, the former president of KWRI, is who recruited me to the company. And Mary was one of the best team leaders in Keller Williams ever in history. And I learned how to recruit, or I like to say, attract talent from Mary. And the best advice she ever gave me, and I share the who behind it because nothing I do is original. The best advice that Mary ever gave me is ask the question, sit still and listen. So as you're reaching out to these brokers and or agents and making a care call, ask those questions, sit still and listen. And y'all write notes, use their words, write their words, what they're saying as you do that, because you're going to be able to pull out where their challenges are. And then you're going to be able to have a conversation about the tools or resources in this book, and you're going to be able to connect them to Chris, or you're going to be able to connect them to Brandon, or you're going to have a solution on your team because you know how to pivot and shift. And because your leadership, you were so fortunate to have such strong market center leadership that's putting together resources. Like you're getting KWRI, right? In your team meetings, they're putting together these resources so that your team is going to be poised to help these brokers that aren't sure what to do. Austin, we've been essential most of social distancing and COVID-19, yet we have really awesome agents that are packing it up and taking it home and closing down because they don't know what to do. Honestly, you could be the person that is the lifeline for someone staying in business and keeping their livelihood in real estate. Side of that, it's also a great time to find those that are hungry, humble, and hustle and are smart, that have lost their jobs because of COVID-19. So there's a lot of people in the service industry, and there's a lot of really smart people that have been in corporate positions that no longer exist. Why don't you show them? When I talk about virtual recruiting events, we've been doing virtual recruiting events. We partnered up with Aceable Agent, which is a licensing course, and they've been giving us 50% off for licensing courses or even continuing education for people that are attending webinars that we're doing on, hey, you lost your job, consider an entrepreneurial opportunity with real estate. We know how to help you step into a new career and make money. And the same thing from attracting, market share with agents. Here we've been putting together webinars on the fundamentals of real estate during these unusual times where we're just in 30 minutes, talking about virtual opens, talking about virtual consults, how to continue lead generation during these times, and then offering that 50% discount on continuing education. But that's giving us warm leads to talk to. So I say, go back to the basics. Lead generation for talent is just like lead generation for your business. If you're growing your team, block the time, make the calls. The calls have never been easier because you're not calling to try to recruit them. You're simply calling to see how things are going for them, figure out what their challenges are, and be that lifeline. And then the second part, have virtual recruiting events. One of the questions that Brandon asked me is like, how do we stay in touch with people? Especially right now, meaning our talent. Y'all, it's going to go back to exactly how you stay in touch with your clients. Put your talent bench have between their own teams in our network. All of those people have access. I just froze. I'm so sorry. Something's wrong with my internet. Am I back?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I'm so sorry. My internet cut out for a second.
Happens to me like every 7 seconds. It's all good.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay, thank you, Brandon, for giving me grace there. I appreciate that. But all of these people, whether they're building their team in our network and starting from the beginning, or if they're a 60, 70, $80 million producer and they're adding, each of them have a talent drip campaign that we put together. Talent, I love this quote. This actually came from my KWRI days. We used to do a networking SWAT team to help our leadership leaders, department leaders, grow their talent benches. And Jay Papazan looked up one day, and leave it to Jay to have the best line. And he's like, wow, talent is not in an event, it's a process. And so that's what you need to think through. Even as you're just making these warm calls to the brokers that staying in touch with them, inviting them to things, sharing things of value over time, that's going to naturally lead to a talent relationship over time. And so just make sure that you're not just making those calls, that you're not just providing them with resources, but that you're staying in touch and that you're staying top of mind. So when the time's right for them and the time's right for your team, you're ready to go. Brandon asked, like, gosh, what other nuggets can you bring in, or words of advice? And that's what I would say is a really big one, is you never know that the connection that you're making today, regardless of if it's Brandon or Chris or me or the agent across the bridge that you really respect, you never know what that's going to turn into. When I look around experience, we all knew each other 4, 5, and 6 years before any of us ever knew that we would be in business together. Right? I met Chris Flores by cold calling him to join KW Young Professionals when we were first launching it. And I was new at corporate and I didn't know anyone. And I thought, wow, we're launching this thing and I'm responsible for it. So I better hit the phones just the way an agent would. And I met Chris Flores by a cold call. Right now, Chris is not only one of my best friends, and that happened through his commitment to KW Young Professionals and just really believing and developing people's growth and leadership in businesses. He ended up becoming one of my best friends. And now for 2 years, I've been in business with him. And we've attracted more people that we've known for many, many years. So that part about who you surround yourself with, I take that really, really seriously. Are you surrounding yourself with, and are you being intentional about, people that are going to push you and grow you?
I just want to circle back with you. I'm sorry about that. I was thinking, I remember the 17.5. I said, okay, Fort Lee's 35,000. And I know Rutherford's 32,000, right?
Who's the accident? Hey, David, can you mute yourself? You're actually taking a call.
Yeah. So I actually went into my file when I saw your email and I thought, how,
Dave, can you mute
I thought I
yourself,
was
please?
right, but I was wrong. So I apologize. And we'll get that straightened out.
Chris, you're the host. Can you mute him?
So, perfect. Thank you, Chris. So, just think through, who are you? Even if you're getting into the relationship with that awesome agent across the bridge and you're not ready for them today, or, an amazing technologist or an amazing marketer, and you're thinking, gosh, someday down the line, my team is going to be so big or my world's going to be so big that might be someone I wanted to be in business with. Don't underestimate what you can build and continue to surround yourself by people that make you better. It might not be in real estate. It might be from a different industry, but that's where we gain perspective and that's where we innovate from. So just continue to build those relationships. They're going to make you stronger. They're going to make you more engaged and more excited about what you do. And it could lead to some pretty cool professional opportunities down the line.
I love that. And I think that's especially now, right? When there's so many goofy things going on in the industry and locally and everything, it's no better time to surround yourself with really good people. Like you said, whether it's real estate, I've gotten closer with, some mortgage people, I've gotten closer with some banking people, reconnected with some friends from other industries, and it all works. And we're all in this thing together in some capacity. Any questions? I, again, appreciate everything that you said. I think we touched on everything we were talking about, which is good. It usually doesn't work that way, but good. Good.
Yeah, I'm going to post 2 things in the chat box. One is my email address. I am passionate about the models that we have. Like I mentioned, I'm going to be sending Brandon our virtual open house information. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. The other thing is Chris Flores is holding a free virtual expansion systems orientation next week, June 1st through the 5th. I'm putting the link in the chat box as well. And I want you to know that ESO is not just for people that want to expand to other markets. ESO is a systems and a mindset class. And when we look at where we are right now, mindset and systems are more important than they ever are before. And so please don't hold back from taking ESO. I wish we could rename it because I don't think you for shaking your head, Chris. I'm right. I wish we could rename it because I think that we lose a really important audience by with that name. So if you're interested in ramping up your systems and expanding your mindset, great class. We're breaking it down to 2 hours a day for 5 days so that you're not taking a full day out of production. But again, it's free. The link is right there. And we would love to welcome you to that class. And my last word would be, Marc King said it best, be open to everything. Right? Be open to everything. As you look at your business, it might be expansion. It might be a partnership. It might be adding a buyer's agent or a showing assistant. You always thought you would do it on your own. So I would just say, when Marc said be open to everything and question everything, I think that's tremendous advice. And just again, Brandon, Chris, thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of this. Would love to join y'all anytime. And I'm here to help in any way that I can. And so is my team.
Holly, thanks for your knowledge and pouring into us. Can't thank you enough.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
this was great. And just in case you guys didn't know, that expansion, the ESO, is like hundreds of dollars if you want to take it in person, typically. And for someone like Chris to offer, or Chris Suarez to offer that for free is, especially learning from him, that's an amazing, amazing, amazing thing. So we really appreciate you sharing that with us and everything else, but also that. Awesome. Well, if you guys have any questions for Holly, her email is in the chat. Respect everybody's time. I know, again, a lot of people are probably doing some showings this morning today, which is awesome. Hopefully we're all getting kind of back in play here. But again, thank you so much, Holly. Thanks to Mark King, and thanks to everybody for being on the call.
Y'all have a great day. Thank y'all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Holly. Thank you, everyone.
See you guys.
Bye.